Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
We welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Friday, September 3rd. I'm Gary Stevens. First Friday of the month, our 10:30 segment is devoted to the Community Foundation of the Holland, Zeeland Area and the president of the CFHZ, Mike Goorhouse, on the other side of our Zoom connection this morning. Mike, good morning. Hope all is well.
Good morning, Gary. Thanks for having me.
Glad you are with us. I was going to stop by. I walked by the offices over on 8th Street yesterday, but I figured you guys were pretty busy. Maybe it was during the lunch hour, so I figured maybe you're at lunch.
Stop in anytime.
All right. Let's talk about some of the things going on at the Community Foundation before we go any further looking ahead. Let's look in the short term. Big night coming up this coming Thursday, the 9th, and tell us a little bit about that and whether or not people can still get in on all the fun.
Yeah. So next Thursday, September 9, out at Emmy Yacht Restoration and Boat Shed, we are hosting our celebration of philanthropy. And we skipped it last year in the middle of the pandemic. We had a lot of thoughts about whether we should host it this year, but decided to go with it. And I will tell you, we had surveyed a bunch of our folks to see how people felt about gathering in a space like this. It's a big open boat shed. It'll feel kind of outdoors-ish, and people were very, very supportive. I think people are, trying to navigate the reality of still being in a pandemic, and also looking for moments to celebrate and get out. And I think what we are doing this year is we are making it all positive. We have a couple things that we are going to celebrate. And so I have to tell you, Gary, we have record attendance, people signing up. And if people are interested in coming, they still can. They can register on our website, www.cfhz.org. But it's going to be a fun night. And so what I thought I'd actually do is give a little preview to listeners today about what we're going to talk about, if that's okay, for those that maybe aren't going to be able to be there. I still encourage you to come. We're also going to live stream, so you can follow that on our Facebook page too. But here's what we're going to celebrate, folks. The foundation at the end of 2020, for the first time in our history, crossed 100 million in total assets. And that is a milestone that is not so important because of the dollars per se, but it's important for two reasons. One, it demonstrates the trust that people have in the Community Foundation to steward resources wisely. These are folks who over the last 60, 70 years have decided this is an organization that they trust to deliver impact in our community with resources, and that means a lot. But second, the more resources we have, the more we can do in community. So what we're going to celebrate is the ability for the foundation to continue to create impact long into the future, and just honor and thank those that set the vision for the Community Foundation decades ago, those that helped get it started. Bill Vanderbilt was the first staff executive director who laid the framework. Janet DeYoung took us to the next level. And so that's going to be fun. We're going to celebrate a milestone of growth for the Community Foundation.
Let me ask you a question before you continue on. You reached that milestone. This was how far long ago did that reach?
So right at the end of the year.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking that is, to me, it seems like you reached that milestone, even though maybe I'm perceiving this wrong, Mike. The foundation had to give away, well, I wouldn't say give, but had to make more money going out over the last 18 months than probably it had to do before. So one might say, hey, wait a minute, you reached that milestone, even though the money going out was bigger than ever before, and you still hit that milestone?
Yeah, it's true, Gary. I'm glad you brought that up. Last year was our biggest year of grants in our history. We gave away more money we've ever given away in the past last year, as we should. That was exactly the moment where we needed to do that. And yet we still hit that milestone. So you're right, pretty remarkable. And we're just going to continue to drive. This is on pace to be our biggest year of grants, even bigger than last year. And so that's what I mean by, it's not about the dollars and the assets per se. It's about the impact that we're able to make with those dollars and resources in the community. And so we're going to celebrate that. It's appropriate to lift up and honor those that had some of that that early vision. And so we're going to do that. But then the biggest thing we're going to do is we are going to celebrate our nonprofits who just delivered in remarkable ways over the last 18 months. They deserve well more than a 10-minute, 15-minute celebration from stage, but that's what we're going to give them. So we're going to share some stories that many in our community probably are unfamiliar with, of some of the ways that our nonprofits stepped up in the last 18 months. So if you're game for it, Gary, I thought I'd tell a couple of the stories today. I don't know if we're going to tell them all today. I'm going to tempt people to.
We are game for it. I do have about 10 minutes right now in this segment, and then more after the break.
Great. So I'll share a few stories. And this is the kind of stuff we're going to talk about. So you think about folks got sent home. This is spring of 2020. Students got sent home, and schools were shut down for the rest of the year. And we have a local program called CASA, Children's After School Achievement, which is affiliated with Hope College, and works with a lot of our younger students here in the community, driven to be academically successful, but have some barriers in life. And the folks at CASA, they just wouldn't take no for an answer. They knew that these students needed the help and support to stick with this and not fall behind. So Gary, they were doing driveway stuff. They were literally in students' driveways, making sure they kept the relationships going. They held students accountable and supported them through the online learning journey, making sure they had devices and connectivity. And I could just see the picture of the CASA staff pulling up in the driveway, meeting outside, being safe, but not letting anything get in the way of them working with these students. It's a beautiful picture. Another example, nestlings. So where you guys remember we had all these random shortages last year. Well, there was a shortage of size 6 diapers. And Nestlings is a diaper bank, and they supply Community Action House and the Food Rescue Mission and all these other entities with diapers. Shortage of size 6 diapers. Well, Nestlings finds out that there is a semi truck of size 6 diapers that they can purchase and bring to Holland, but they had to, I forget how many days they had, 2 days, 3 days to raise the funds, get organized, find a place to put them and whatever else. And Nestlings, man, they just stepped up and they made the phone calls, they raised the funds, they got the partners, they found some storage space, and then we got that truck of size 6 diapers for our community, and then distributed them out to all the partners. And they just had a moment's notice. That truck could have just sailed right by on the highway to some other community, but instead pulled into Holland and we got the diapers. You've got a story of resilience. So resilience works with individuals who are victims of domestic violence, and COVID shut down. People are spending more time in their homes, and you can think about this and imagine if you're being forced to spend more time in proximity with your abuser. That is no good, folks, and it's very, very scary. At the same time, it was very scary to think about leaving your home and going somewhere else too. Because remember, early on, it was lockdown. There was no one driving on the roads. There was no place open. There was no place to go. And so Resilience and their clients had this dual, it was scary on both fronts. Scary to leave, scary to stay. And Resilience, they worked with a hotel, and they got a discounted rate because nobody was staying in hotels. And so they booked hotel rooms for some of these women and children to have a place to go that was physically safe from the pandemic, but also safe for them away from their abuser. An example of we're stuck. We could just kind of put our hands over our head and say, what are we supposed to do? It's not our fault. But instead, they found a solution. They raised some funds. They set up this system so they could do it in a safe way in hotels. Just a real creative and thinking out of the box solution that they then deployed immediately, very quickly. The example of farmers. So farmers had their crops in 2020. Beautiful fresh produce that a lot of the restaurants that they normally supplied weren't purchasing because restaurants weren't open and they couldn't do these things. So you have these farmers. How are they going to make a living? No one's buying. Some people weren't buying the produce. And we had this great produce. So along comes Harvest Stand Ministries in Zeeland. Zeeland's kind of food bank, and they partnered with a bunch of other nonprofits through Ottawa Food, and they raised some money. They bought the fresh food from the farmers, and so the farmers had a way to make their income, but then all these nonprofits had bundles and bundles of fresh food that they were delivering to families. And again, I just pause and think about that picture. One path forward is the crops die, they go uneaten, the farmers don't have the income, but instead, those were consumed and enjoyed by families in a beautiful way, and farmers were paid for their crops. That didn't even exist before COVID. That partnership didn't exist. And then in a moment's notice, nonprofits stepped up, found the resources, and made it happen. Another example was the state announced this thing called the Employee Assistance Program, and it was one of their kind of state relief efforts, and it was dollars for those that were unemployed because their industries were closed. So restaurants, hospitality, those kinds of things. But here's the kicker. Individuals had only 10 days to apply for the funds, and the application was online only, so you had to have access to the internet, and it was only in English. So here you have all these industries with individuals across all kinds of various circumstances, and you only give them 10 days. It's online only, and you have to speak English. Well, that's no good. So, but what happens here locally? Lighthouse Immigrant Advocates translates all the materials and says, okay, you have them all in Spanish here, so you can navigate. The two libraries, Howard Miller Library and Heritage Library, said, we'll offer you a corner of our space with a couple of computers dedicated for people who need access to internet to apply for this program. And then Community Action House and Lighthouse staffed the libraries for all 10 days. And we got the word out. If you need help applying for this assistance, go to the libraries. There'll be people there who can help you walk through the program. Gary, this all came together in 72 hours. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, so like this, but the problem was you didn't have time. The state only gave you 10 days. Like if you slept on it for a week, you missed the whole moment. These are the kinds of things that our nonprofits were doing, some of them known and many of them unknown over the last 18 months. And they just deserve to be celebrated. I mean, they were doing all kinds of creative, innovative, stepping up things and sacrificing and thinking big. And so those are a few examples.
Yeah. Just a few examples.
Yeah.
Good morning. You're on the line with Mike Goorhouse.
Well, good morning, I'm enjoying this schoolhouse. I've got a compliment for you. You're doing a fantastic job for our wonderful community. I think you might want to look into donating to the community window in the waterfront park. Maybe they can add a tennis court, a pavilion, some public restrooms, and maybe plant 1,000 trees so people that live on the north end there can smell the odor. I don't know if that's going to prove you, but it might be a good thing for the community to come together and help develop the window waterfront park. So that's just my suggestion. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the call. These projects are there, but we got to look at the entire community, not just one specific part there, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for calling in today and the compliment. I appreciate that very much. And the suggestion of window on the waterfront, I think you're onto something. So couple of things I'll say. So if you haven't driven by a window on the waterfront lately, you got to go check it out. They put in a new nature-based play area partnership between the City of Holland and Outdoor Discovery Center, and they're building it right now. It's actually pretty fun to watch them build, but that is on the east side of the window on the waterfront park, and it's looking great. So I'm really excited about that addition to that park. I think you're right. In addition, beyond that park is going to become important for our community. There is definitely more talk about kind of moving north from downtown. So 6th Street, 5th Street, kind of right around window on the waterfront. So I think it's a great idea. And definitely the foundation would continue to look at how can we bolster that part of town. We do have some great parks, but there's an opportunity there. I agree with that suggestion.
Yeah, and by the way, I walked by that area before I walked by your offices yesterday and watched the construction going on with that Wow Park that's going up in window on the waterfront. Before we talk a little bit about how people can get involved with the celebration of philanthropy next Thursday, I'm going to throw you a challenge question. And actually, I'm going to change it from celebration of philanthropy, Mike, to challenge of philanthropy. How would you answer the challenge of philanthropy. Okay, over the next 6 months, we'll just keep it to that right now. What would be the challenge of philanthropy over the next 6 months in our area?
It's a good question. I'm going to give you a couple answers. So one, I think one challenge that we have is to be diligent about stewarding philanthropic resources to places where the public dollars aren't going. So we read in the news about the state and the federal government spending lots and lots of money on a lot of things, and that's super true. So the key then is, what are the needs in our community that aren't benefiting from those pots of money, and how do we channel philanthropic dollars to those places? So that would be my challenge number one. You have lots of moving pieces and parts. 2 years ago, we had a pretty good handle of where public dollars went, where private dollars needed to go. Well, the last 18 months, there's been all these new programs and all these new things. And so it's been a little bit more complicated to keep track of where the public dollars are going so we can channel private dollars. The second answer I would give to that, Gary, is we've built and tested, we've built some new programs. We've tested some models over the last 18 months, partly in response to these state and federal dollars. But the question then is, which of those should we be keeping? So some may be specific to a pandemic, kind of an emergency response in a moment. But there may be some things that we've learned from that response that we may say, that was a better way of doing something. Let's find a way to keep that, or let's find a way to adapt that to an ongoing environment, but keep that going. And I think that's going to be important. I'll give you a couple examples. So one, the Good Samaritan Ministries was presented with this opportunity to distribute rental assistance. The first program they called Eviction Diversion Program. Now they call it the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And they've been doing this in amazing ways the last year. The question would be, can we learn from that and say, how effective was that program at keeping people from not only eviction, but also that beginning of that spiral down? Because when you get evicted, you lose your home, and that kind of leads to other things and other things and other things. So instead of dealing with the results of being evicted and the spiral down, was that program effective at keeping people housed in the first place? And should we learn from that? Is there a piece of that we should keep? The health department, particularly with the vaccine deployment, they had to flex some new muscles because they had to reach pockets of the community that don't often engage with the public health department. Well, is there something we can learn there? Is there some relationship, some trust, some communication, some whatever that we've learned that, hey, seniors that don't have access to online, how do we reach them and what's the network? Or certain communities that historically haven't had as much trust in the health system, how do we build those? So there's some things that we've built and had to do over the last year based on necessity, frankly. But sometimes that's okay if that's why you had to do it, to then say, gosh, we should keep that piece. So I would say those are two pieces. Make sure we're navigating the dollars to where public dollars aren't going, and also kind of separating the things out that were really emergency during the pandemic only, and good things that we may want to keep in the future.
All right, let's look ahead again. September 9th, the celebration of philanthropy. When exactly, where, how people can get involved, if not in person, online, and certainly to help out the Community Foundation, Mike.
Yeah, so it's going to be Thursday, September 9. If you want to come on site, it's 5:30 at NE Yacht Restoration on the north side of Holland. You do have to have a ticket to come on site. And then it goes until about 9 or so with food and drink and dinner and a program. If you'd like to watch online, that's free to anybody. We're going to live stream the program at 7 o'clock. And you can get to that from the Community Foundation's Facebook page, and you can watch the program. And we welcome anyone to watch the program that evening, and then we'll post that later as well. That you don't need a ticket for. You can just sign on and watch. So it will be a fun evening to celebrate, but also it's I think we need a little bit of this. It's an anxious time in our society right now, and I think people are tired, and I think people aren't. We're just all not maybe at our best right now. We're tired and a little bit low on energy. So our goal that night is to not pretend that there aren't tough things going on in the community. That's not the point. But the point is to also take a moment, pause, celebrate, reflect, and be positive. I think we need that too. I think we can do that without pretending that there aren't tough things going on in the world. And I think we need it right now. So that's what we're going to do.
On the 9th, how can people get involved with the Community Foundation beyond September the 9th?
Yeah. So our website's a great place to start. It's www.cfhz.org, or you could stop in like Gary almost did the other day. We're on 8th Street, right across the street from the Knickerbocker Theater. Happy to have people stop in. Or our phone number is 616-396-6590.
Go ahead and repeat the number, because I always get people saying, I didn't write that. I didn't have a pen.
Yes.
Now I got a pen. So give the number one more time.
616-396-6590.
It is the Community Foundation of the Holland, Zeeland area, and Mike Goorhouse is its president. He joins us on a regular basis on the first Friday of the month to tell us things going on with the foundation, what it does, and some of the benefits that the foundation has had. And again, as he said, you guys passed the $100 million mark? Not 100,000. I mean, that would be kind of peanuts right there. But again, $100 million in the funds, and that came despite the fact that the foundation was giving away more money than ever before in 2020, and to do that in that situation, Mike, is indeed laudable. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. And if all goes well, we'll do this again next month.
I look forward to it. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Mike Goorhouse on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.